Appreciate that very much. Sincere and heartfelt prayer, uplifting singing that describes to us the fact that the Christian life, no matter what age in which you live, no matter what's going on in your life, is a joyous one, is a life that lifts you up and causes you to live better and to live the true happy life in service to the Lord. I would like to address that subject to you this morning for just a little bit. Happiness in such a time as this, finding true happiness. In order to take care of things as far as finding what happiness really is and how you can find it, first of all, you should identify some things that do not make you truly happy. Happiness, ladies and gentlemen, is not found in the feeling of security. Number one, because that is a feeling, and feelings are fickle. They'll go up and they'll go down, but true happiness must be something that is steadfast and on more of an even keel. A feeling of security is always going to fly straight in the fact of, just that, facts. It's going to fly straight in the face of them. And for example, all of those so far, now keep in mind the date as of this live stream, okay? The date as of this recording, all of those who have been killed in the U.S. so far by virtue of that awful virus are only a fraction of those that will die each and every single year through road accidents in the United States. Isn't that astounding? Astounding. What does that mean? It means that you led a happy life when you were out here on the road before all this mess started, right? So you had no security then. At any time, your life could have ended and still can to this very day out on the road. Well, what changed then? You see, security never did give the happiness because you felt more secure then, but you were not really secure. The fact of the matter is that finding true happiness must be based upon something that is a little bit deeper. Consider with me for just a moment the concept of what the devil does in the world. When mankind looks out for happiness, it is no doubt one of the most awful things that the devil has in his mind and has designed so that you might be the saddest person on the face of this earth. He is miserable, as the Bible describes him in the book of Revelation. He knows he has but a little time, and therefore he goes about doing the very best he can in order to drag you down with him. That's the only thing he has left. Having been defeated by the resurrection of Jesus Christ, there is nothing left for him but let as many people go down with him as possible. Exactly how does he accomplish that then? He tries to pull you away from happiness, give you a life of despondency, of frustration, of sadness at loss and mourning. This is something that he does continually. And yet God, thankfully, has placed bounds upon what he is able to do. And even though we have not reached heaven yet, the Lord has given us a taste of it in his church. And God has shown us that love is greater than any amount of hate that he spews at us. And the fact is that a person finds, for example, in Matthew chapter 5, that there is a blessedness and there is a happiness even among those that mourn. They may mourn due to sickness. They may mourn due to accidents. They may mourn due to the carelessness and even the violence of men. But regardless of the source of it, like in Matthew 5 and verse 10, it could be persecution, as it is in various parts of the world against Christians. Regardless of the source, the happiness that you can feel is described by Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 in that beautiful word, blessed. I am blessed. The blessing does not come because every single day I feel just great. The blessing does not come because every single thing that happens to me, I look around and say, well, how can I turn this lemon into lemonade? It's because I know that those feelings that go up or down, it's because I know that whatever has befallen me in life, it is the Lord who is in control of me. It is because I know that whatever has occurred from day to day, I have arrived at the blessed state. Not a state where you say, I don't feel for people that are going through hard times on this earth. Not a state where somebody says, oh, well, I'm going to withdraw and become like a hermit or something to get away from all this stuff. No, no, no. Jesus didn't do that, and yet he lived in the blessed state. and said whether a person is mourning, whether a person is persecuted, whether a person is feeling down, the most humble of individuals can be happy. Blessed is the man, he says, over and over again. That blessedness, folks, comes from arriving at the understanding, living in the state of blessedness, where you say, God is in control. It is arriving at the state of blessedness where you say, the regular and everyday cares of this life cannot bring me down, because I have sought out what is good and what is right. Listen to this in Luke chapter 10. Luke 10. In Luke 10, there was a situation beginning in verse 40 where Mary and Martha, in the very common thing told, especially at ladies' days and such as that, there have even been whole books written about this passage, where Mary and Martha are entertaining Jesus and the disciples. Boy, that's a big entertainment, isn't it? You're having an important and auspicious group at your house. But Martha was cumbered about much serving. She comes to Jesus and she said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Bid her, therefore, that she help me. Martha is not a happy person. Now, it doesn't use the word here, but come on. You can read the verse just as well as I do. You know she's not happy. Jesus answered and he said to her, Martha, Martha. And the Lord agrees with our summarization here of her attitude. He knows she's not happy. He said, you are careful. That means she's worried. You're troubled about many things. She had this anxiousness inside of her. But one thing is needful. Mary has chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Jesus and the disciples weren't fussing about where's the bread. Jesus and the disciples weren't worried about, well, our cup is empty. Jesus and the disciples weren't looking back over in the kitchen to see if they were piled up, the dishes or anything like that. Yes, those things have to be done. But this is Jesus. And he's busy instructing and giving a good example of what a Christian's going to be like. And Mary's soaking it all up, isn't she? And even though Martha is trying to do good, she's letting the everyday things of this life define whether she's happy. And Jesus says, Mary's got something else to do, Martha. You cannot allow the everyday things to define your happiness. Mary has seen there's something else to be done right now. And that thing is going to help you to live a good life and do good things. And he said, I'm not going to tell her to leave my side because you aren't feeling happy. How could Martha have been happier? Surely she could have said, like Mary, you know, Lord, you all may still be a little thirsty or something, but I trust that your disciples know how to get themselves a glass of water. What did you just say? Mary, what did he just say? And then for her to just kind of plant herself right there beside her. You know, I'll kind of worry about some of the other stuff a little later. Oh, Martha, Martha, how is she cumbered? How is she worried? She's not happy because she doesn't allow herself to be happy. To say, the things of this life come and the things of this life go. And there are going to be daily chores and there's going to be daily things to do all the time. But this one thing is needed, for me to take time out and to ask myself, what can I learn from Jesus? That would have made her much happier. What is it that would make a person happy? You become happy, ladies and gentlemen, when you are delivered from your fears. People living in fear. I had an address on this just the other day, so I'm not going to go into that in any full way. But why is it that they have so much fear? It's because they have not understood the interesting teaching of the Bible in Psalm 34 about the fear of the Lord delivering us from the fear that comes upon man. Listen to this. This is a fascinating passage. It's Psalm 34, and if you look at verse 4, I sought the Lord. He heard me. He delivered me from all my fears. Why are people not happy? Well, I'm afraid of different things that might happen to me. I like Tim. I don't want bad things to happen to Tim. I trust you like yourself as well. And we like to be comfortable. But being comfortable, feeling secure, is not going to give you your happiness. What is going to give you your happiness is to understand the Lord delivers you from your fears. Well, how does He do that? Strangely enough, He does that by you having the fear of God. Isn't that interesting? When you have the fear of God, you're delivered from the fear of the world. Here's how He explains it beginning in verse 9. Now remember, He just got through saying, "The Lord delivers me from all my fears." "Oh, fear the Lord," He says, "ye His saints, for there is no want to them that fear Him." So first of all, He says, the fear of the Lord makes it to where the things that you worried about not having, you don't worry about them anymore. Instead, you're able to turn it over to God and say, "Lord, you have given a beautiful day." I tell you what, after all that rain, hadn't it been absolutely gorgeous? It really has. Now, obviously, we're going to need another rain pretty soon if you want everything to keep on growing good. But the fact of the matter is that people for the longest, there's like, when is it going to quit raining? When is it going to quit raining? Well, how are we going to get anything done if it doesn't quit raining? Folks, even after 40 days in the flood, it finally quit raining, didn't it? And the Lord is not going to do that to us again, so it stops raining. And then what happens? The beautiful sun shines through. Somebody knows God promised me. He promised me He'd never do that to the earth again. It'll quit raining. I know it's going to quit. And the sun will shine through. And that's what makes you happy. Because you lived in an understanding of God that He is the one who controls it. Therefore, the fear of the Lord delivers you from the fears of men. Fear the Lord, you His saints. There is no want. I'm not lacking for an understanding. I'm not lacking for what I need. I know that the cycle of seasons will continue because God promised it. I know that everything that I require in life will be supplied unto me because God promised it. I understand that everything that I need in order to be ready for my departure is there in Jesus Christ because God promised it. I will not leave you comfortless, He told His disciples, the apostles. And indeed, He completed His word in the work of the Holy Spirit and has left us with His church and the Bible and all good things to guide us and show us the fear of the Lord. Listen to this in verse 10. This is the same thing, Psalm 34. "The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing. Come, ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord." To understand that God is the judge of all, to tremble before Him does not mean you're unhappy. The world looks at that and they say, "See, well, these miserable Christians, they're worried about the judgment. And, well, I don't have any worry in that at all." One time there was a man by the name of Owen. He was debating Alexander Campbell. And as he was debating Mr. Campbell, he pointed out to him as they were traveling along, I guess toward the next debate or something, and he said, "That's the difference between me and you Christians." He said, "I have no fear." He didn't understand what true fear was, did he? He didn't understand the fear of the Lord, of the judge that was going to be there when he died. Mr. Campbell knew the difference, though, and he knew what true happiness was. And he told Mr. Owen, he basically said to him, "You see those cows out there in the field?" Mr. Owen's like, "Yeah." He said, "You're like that cow out in the field. You say you have no fear, you have no hope. They just go through their lives, chewing their cud, eating their grass, and they never realize nor have any understanding of the blessedness that is coming their way, nor any security at all. But instead, a Christian has hope." You say you have no fear? You have nothing more than to say that. But a Christian actually has much more. It was that hope that gave Mr. Campbell such great confidence. It is that hope that gave Mr. Campbell so much happiness in life. To understand that God has me. He will cradle me in time of need. "Come, ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you of the fear of the Lord." What is man that desires life? I want to live a good life, that loves many days, that he may see good. What is required for you to have that right attitude, to say, "I want to live the happy life"? He says it's simple. Keep your tongue from evil. Keep your lips from speaking guile. Depart from evil. Do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Just live peaceably with people. Don't try to say rash and ugly things from your mouth. Do good. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous. His ears are open unto their cry. I am happy, ladies and gentlemen, to live in the world that God has given me. Not because He has taken me away from all the trials and tribulations of this life. That's what we have in this life. But because God has assured me, I have not left you. I will not forsake you. My ears are open unto your cry. People in the world don't have that assurance, and therefore they live without happiness. There's some New Testament passages dealing with this as well, and that's what I leave you with this morning. How to be happy. If there's ever anybody that had concerns in life from day to day, it would be the Apostle Paul. And yet he expresses how he was able to understand happiness in a couple of places in 2 Corinthians. So I would like for us to look at 2 Corinthians 7 and then at 2 Corinthians 12. How was Paul able to find happiness and joy in the middle of what he was going through? Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. Oh, wow, he discovered the same thing the psalmist knew, didn't he? How do you perfect the holiness before God that you need? You'd perfect it in the fear of God. There is a judge that we all answer to, and He will judge righteously and fairly, and He will make everything right. That puts a smile on my face. Everything will be made right by God. He has not forgotten a single cup of cold water given in His name. He has not forgotten a single person's faith. But even the lowliest of individuals is recognized and known by name unto Him. Verse 2 there in 2 Corinthians 7. Receive us. We have wronged no man. We have corrupted no man. We have defrauded no man. Reminds you of that in Psalm 34, where he was telling them, how do you be happy? He says, well, you don't speak bad to your fellow man. You don't treat your fellow man bad. You go about doing good, that kind of thing. That's what Paul's saying here. He said, that's how I'm able to have this attitude among you. I haven't done anything to you all. I speak not this to condemn you, he said. I have said before that you are in our hearts to die and to live with you. I find it incredible. We would return that passage, turn it around, wouldn't we? We'd say it's in our hearts to live and die with you. That's not what he said, did he? He said it's in our hearts to die and live with you. That's because of the perspective he had on it. Fascinating, isn't it? Paul knew that we must meet our appointed time, but he knew life has just begun. You're in our hearts to die and to live with you. Great is my boldness of speech toward you. Great is my glorying of you. I am filled with comfort. I am exceedingly joyful in all our tribulation. Paul might be beat one day, turn right around and receive the kind hug of a Christian on the next day, and say unto God, thank you that you counted me worthy to suffer the tribulation. Thank you that you gave me a brother and sister in Christ who helped me to see through these rough times. He knew how to be happy before God no matter what was happening to him. What a beautiful passage. And then we have 2 Corinthians chapter 7 and beginning at verse 9. Lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations. Oh, Paul was told a lot of things, wasn't he? Might give you the big head. There was given to me a thorn in the flesh, though, he points out, a messenger of Satan to buffet me. Ladies and gentlemen, does anybody doubt Satan is buffeting the world, even now? He's sifting people to see how many he can get. Can I get them to question God? Can I get them to turn from that which is good and right? Can I get them to live for themselves? Can I get them to give in to their petty greeds and desires that keep help from their fellow man? Can I get them to live in fear? That's what he wants. And Satan buffeted Paul personally. He said, I got a messenger of Satan to buffet me. lest I should be exalted above measure. Satan wanted him to live in frustration and despondency. Paul decided, I'm going to look at this as something that keeps me from getting the big head, something that keeps me from being too proud. And he turned, therefore, his lemons into lemonade. For this thing I besought the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. Nobody wants to go through hard times. Lord, I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. Take it away, please. But in his good attitude, he's going to live with whatever comes his way. And sure enough, God tells him in verse 9, you got to live with it. My grace is sufficient for thee. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Well, since that was God's message to Paul, all right, I'll deal with it. Some have suggested this was Paul's poor eyesight. The poor man, no doubt, wanted to read more of the Scripture and wanted to understand better things. And perhaps the most likely thing we have is that he just couldn't. He couldn't see good. His eyes would get tired, and he had no way to go forward. You can imagine how much he would pray to God. If they're not going to let me out, if they're going to keep me in chains, if they're not going to let me go forward in life in some other way, if they're not going to let me evangelize somebody, at least I could study. At least I could get some progress with myself personally, but I can't see, Lord. I can't see good. Take it away. But it wasn't taken away. God said, most gladly, therefore, I will glory in my infirmities. That's what God gave to Paul to tell us, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. If it means me remaining with whatever it was, bad eyesight is, like I said, most commonly given reason. If that's what it means for me to stay a humble Christian and to know that I'm headed to life, for me to know that I'm headed to glory, for me to know that I'm going to participate in the great reunion of Christians later on, if that's what it takes, thank you, God. This will keep me humble before you. Everything's going to be all right. Paul knew how to turn every situation into something that was going to further his soul or further the cause of Christ. My friend, you're looking for true happiness? Find the ability to do something good for somebody in these difficult times. Find the ability to do something that shows you still devote yourself unto God. Are you keeping your prayers up? Are you making sure that everybody around you is supplied with whatever it is they need? Have you given that encouraging phone call? Have you let other people know, I'm doing good, and God has blessed me greatly today? When you share that kind of good cheer among everybody in the world, they cannot help but notice, that's a Christian that acts like that. That's a Christian that sees the good in everyday living. That's somebody who lives in confidence before God, because no matter what Satan hits them with, they have lived in the fear of the Lord, and they know that their righteous judge will take care of them in the end. That's the way you live a happy life, my friends. There are many other things the Bible has to say about this, but we will leave these passages with you this morning, and I just want you to ask yourself, am I happy? No, I don't mean, are you happy about the lockdown? Nobody's happy about that. Are you happy with your soul and where it stands right now? Are you happy? No, not with whether the garden's coming along, not with whether the yard is mowed. Are you happy right now in the thought that you are ready to die and live with the Lord? Do you glory in His blessings every single day? And if not, is there something we can do to help you out today? Please let us know if you need to respond to the Lord's way. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. Please respond. If you need God in some better way in your life, we can pray with you even this morning. Let us know. Contact us here at the Willette Church of Christ. And for those few who are with us here, then if there's some need you have before God, let that be known as we sing our song.